All right, welcome back to another edition of Culinary Connections Distribution Dialogues, where we dive into the heart of food service. And one area that I've always had a deep passion for is food service technology in the B2B space, just because of how fragmented our industry has been. And the reality that not every distribution company, when you think about what it means to have our IT team, what that typically means is a handful of people, right? And we're talking primarily companies sub $100 million, right? That are the IT person also probably has another job, and they're growing the department at a fractional level, and what their IT duties are, hey, my Outlook isn't working, Wi-Fi is not working in the building. If they're sophisticated enough to have scan guns or weights or whatever in the building, those are the type of issues that arise, really like firefighting, and not necessarily innovating and developing tools across those departments. And a huge part of that is financial resources to maintain that, to develop it on the human capital side, but also just on general technology. And who's joining us today is David Moosman, who started a company called To Market, and also a former Michigan football player. And I guess we'll start there. Like, talk about your journey to where you are today.
It's been a long one. It started way back in the Gridiron Chef, a small little competition amongst our football team to see who could put together food for the university chefs. And I was the only one who put together anything that looked like a plate of actual food. And so they let me come and cook with them. And while I was training for the combine, I would cook and learn and chop. And then after a brief stint in the NFL, I went over to Italy. John Grisham wrote a book about my football team and was switched from banging my head against a bunch of idiots to cooking with what turned out to be different idiots. So when I transitioned from the meatheads on the football field to the meatheads behind the pass was long and fun and delicious. I cooked all over the world: Italy, Brazil, Boston, Napa, San Francisco, and finally Denver. While I was here, I was working at some of the best restaurants in Colorado. Um, while along my way, I worked in some producers, distributors, oyster farms, vineyards, butcher shops, and Michelin star quality and rated, and all highest of quality, and saw similar problems that uh, communication was awful every step of the way. The only people that are worse at picking up a phone than a chef is a farmer, and vice versa, frankly. And so, after seeing the problems of communications between chefs and distributors, we started a company to help that communication, and those are the two worst people to do it. And the only people that are who really want that information, we found out were the brands. So we pivoted and took all the integrations, all the data points that we built for the distributors that were for the chefs, and we're pointing everything at the brands. Nobody's hungry for data. Nobody's more hungry for their data than the brands, because the distributors, like you're saying, it's just a manual process of figuring out what's going on, figuring out who wants to know it, figuring out how to tell it to everybody. So our ethos is really everybody sees, so nobody has to ask. And in my long experience, from whether it was chefs or football or cooking or coaching, I just saw that communication is at the utmost importance, and building tools for people who are bad at it is pivotal in this industry, because it's pretty pervasive. Either it's somebody's job to communicate, or it should be somebody's job, and we're building out tools to help them all around.
We'll back up real quick because I think in district, well, yeah, well, there's a lot to unpack there, but in distribution, as a salesperson, you're vying to try to get business from a customer, and you're going in and you're trying to sell yourself and your company so you can gain that market share. very similar in the football recruiting process. Schools are recruiting you to, come to the school, and now with NIL, that's certainly changed the landscape of the way you actually recruit. But what was a compelling thing for you to go to Michigan? Like, there's probably a handful of other schools that were looking at you, but what was it about Michigan?
Yeah, it's funny. I got a there's lots of parallel stories between football and food. Number one being just, yeah, it's all about the relationship. But what really sold me on Michigan, it was the best mix of all the. It was the best mix of town, school, and football. I had a lot of offers from a lot of places: Florida, Cal, um, UCLA, and I really loved Ann Arbor as a place, and I really loved Michigan as a school. And man, it's tough to beat 130 years of football in the big house. And we turned out to be the worst team in 130 years of football because of many different criteria. It was many different compiling problems, but we had a coaching change and whole team
Who
change.
were who were the head coaches while you're there?
I was my true freshman year. My true freshman year was the year that we lost to Appalachian State. So yeah, so it just set me up for dealing with adversity and having 100,000 people boo you at once, which thankfully hasn't happened since. But it's a good standard for when the chef is yelling at you to fall back on not giving a shit. I don't know if I could swear here, but I'll keep it at a minimum.
Totally. Yeah,
But
yeah.
it was a good standard for what's important, how to deal with adversity, how to deal through rushes, and whether that's defensive linemen or the opera crowd. So it was what led me to Michigan was um, definitely the balance of all three of those things, and making sure that I could come out with worthwhile experiences to set me up for the rest of my life. And I think I did that, regardless of how good the football turned out to be.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I think we all have our own unique stories of, where your alma mater is, or even if you didn't go to college, right? Like your those are like very formidable years for you to grow and learn. And there's, I think, things that I wish I would have done. Study abroad is one of those. Like, never do you really have a time period in your life where, the your responsibility is to go learn, right? To go and do, and maybe that short stint after college where you're just kind of this like, yeah, you can go anywhere, really. I mean, like, there's not a whole lot holding you back from, going to Tokyo to go like work somewhere, right? Or work on a cruise ship and just like gain some life experiences. And
On that was really my goal, and really why I wanted to cook. Between cooking and coaching football, I figured I could get a job anywhere, and I'd rather get a job and work somewhere rather than just sort of travel. So I was cooking and eating and working in all these different places around the world, and it was really it kind of culminated when I went to a kitchen, really good kitchen in Boston, and the guy's like, "Aren't you a little old for this?" And I was like, "Yeah, you got to start somewhere, chef. I've been pretty busy these last couple of years. I haven't been doing nothing, and I'm proud of what got me there. But I was chopping onions for this guy who was a couple of years older than me, who was the head of the restaurant, and uh, ended up being a big asset, I think, to the team. But he was really curious as to why I was starting cooking at that point. And I'm really happy that I did. So everything sort of leads up to here, and we're really excited about where it's going and where we think it's going to end up.
so why, from a your perspective, or your view, you've been, you know, neck high in finding out, um, and investigating why or what platforms are out there for people. Why is it so hard to get the information? I mean, I think for me, when I look at where my business is, as you know at its core is food brokerage, right? And then you have brands that sell into distribution, and there's so many times where you know whether you're the manufacturer, the true farmer that's producing the product. I know I sold 100 cases into the distribution channel. After that, I can't tell you where in the heck it goes. And every brand, broker, manufacturer, farmer wants to sell more. And you really are just, you have a blindfold on, and unless you build a really solid relationship with the salesperson, it's very hard to get information. For most of these brands, for you to know for the month of May, what did I sell? Where did I sell it? Who dropped off? Who came on board? Where am I missing opportunity? There's a few distributors that give you access, a few, but even when you get that access, it could be a very lightly cleaned up CSV file that has like a customer name that's abbreviated, a product code, last order date, and how you digest that. Like, okay, do I create my own spreadsheet? Then you have to call and ask what these codes mean, and why has it been fragmented?
Yeah, it comes down to a couple key pillars. Number one, uh, why is it so hard? Tradition, mostly. It's the way that my papa did it and the way that his papa did it, and it's been working for 50, 75, 100 years the way that we've been doing it, so why should we change? And the problem is that it hasn't been working for everybody. Maybe it's been working for you and you've had the leverage until you don't. Or maybe it's been working on the maybe it hasn't been working and you just don't know because nobody's told you. And so it's been hard for so long, mainly because that's just been the way it is, and things go the way they go until somebody really changes it. And what's happening right now is it's really changing. Food agriculture is, as an industry, is the second worst industry for innovation, only better than hunting. And no one's really made a better bullet or a better arrow. It's all been the same thing. And the food industry is finally starting to change. You're seeing technology come up in agriculture as far as weed killing and harvesting. You're seeing technology come up with data processing. And frankly, you're looking at Europe and their data privacy laws, and data's a right. And people, the third pillar, why it's been so hard is because everybody's scared. These distributors have been doing it the same way, and they don't really understand data, how it impacts them, how to give it, how to get it, what to do with it. They just see what you call a flat file, and it just glazes people's eyes over with a whole lot of data. And so now what we want to do is we want to give people the tools to understand it, the ability to control it, and show the effectiveness at scale. And so it's been hard for so long because a lot of different reasons, but mainly people have been scared to change. And now the change is at their door, and what we want to do is we want to make it easy, safe, reliable, and scale. And we're really seeing that. Now there are a couple distributors that do it. There's going to be more.
Well, and I think if you are a brand or a distributor, thinking about the power that this gives the people that want to work for you, right? And I think for a long time, distributors have been guarded because they don't want to give brands who's buying it, because they believe that they're going to take that information and go give it to another distributor, right? They're going to take the business away, which is not the case. You know, maybe for a handful of people that have bad intentions, but the reality is that most brokers, salespeople, they actually want to use that data to plan their day accordingly, right? If I'm going to make an investment to fly to Indianapolis to work with a distributor, I want to make sure, number one, I'm going to the right places. And if I have multiple distributors in an area, that I'm not stepping on toes, right? That, you know, I know that I don't want to put myself in a position of conflict. But if you don't have the data, you have no idea. We've relied on, I'm going to ride with X salesperson. They're going to curate the ride along, to go see customers. And you get one day and then hey, you got to get out of here. What's more effective is being able to say, hey, brand, here's your portal and you have access to whatever. And now you can start to ask questions on, hey, I noticed that this is a big customer and, I looked at their menu and now, maybe we could get an opportunity. And because at the end of the day, the vendor wants to sell more. The salesperson distributor needs to sell more. But when you think about, a broadline distributor is going to carry 20 to 30,000 SKUs across thousands of vendors. And, that salesperson doesn't have time to do research for every one of those people, nor does the procurement team. Just as once you get in, good luck, pat on the butt, and hopefully you'll make some friends to. Yeah, yeah. And so, I guess hypothetically walk through what the platform is and how it can benefit the distributor and the brand itself.
Yeah, just like you're saying, where we started was hearing about problems. How many times have you walked into a place selling a product to find out it's already been sold there? Or how many times have you walked into a place and they vehemently use a competitor? Or, a sales rep gives you a list of places to go along this ride along, and then that's it. You get that apple at a roadmap. You don't know if what you sold took, and you just sold one, or if it did take, and you continue to get sales, continual sales off of that product and that pitch and that sell. And so we really building off of real people's problems and a focus on real people, because this is a relationship-based industry, and we want to provide tools for sales reps to know what's going on, for chefs to know what they're buying, for brands to know that their product even fits. So, you also talked about knowing what's going on. How often how many times do brands find out that their product has been discontinued through a distributor weeks, months after the fact? And then they got to go restock, they got to go re-upload, they got to go resell, all these things. And so, what do? We help people know what's going on. From the brand's perspective, know who's buying their product, know where it's getting bought, know which neighborhoods it's going, know which sales reps are doing the most work, to be able to comp those sales reps, to be able to see what's actually happening, to be able to invest in their marketing. And most importantly, at the end of the day, their marketing team's putting together tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of content. And now they don't have to just hope that they're not screaming it to the void, that they're putting it out there and it's going nowhere. With To-Market, they know exactly who's seeing it, where it's going, why it's important, and that its action's been taken on it. For a distributor, it's something similar. It's all the same things on the other side of the coin. Seeing the work that these sales reps have to do what they want to do. They want to go out there and sell. They want to go out there and put delicious food into delicious restaurants. And there's so much work that has to be done with antiquated tools just to get the information to do what they're good at. And so going back to our ethos, everybody knows so nobody has to ask. The sales rep is supplied all the product information from all the brands, from everything that they sell, up-to-date inventory. The brand knows that when their inventory is low, so the sales rep doesn't have to be at fault. They can track POs, know where things are coming in, where they're going. And the distributor is happy that things are actually running. Sales rep is running at full steam. The brands are running at full steam. Nothing is out of less is out of stock, less is in transit, more sales are going through the platform. And at the end of the day, a happy chef is a happy distributor. So chef gets what information they want, whether that's connecting their inside SKUs to distributor SKUs. But we really fall back on everybody sees, so nobody has to ask. And obscurity is the result of loss of millions and millions of dollars. Obscurity of information, whether it's a sales rep who doesn't know a product is coming in or a product isn't in stock, chef that wants to know what else is happening. All these things count to millions of dollars of wasted product, wasted sales, and we want to cut back on those.
So I think one thing to note is that we live in an app world,
Yeah,
right? Like there's an app for that, right? And I would say that the way I would portray it is this is not a replacement to an ERP. This is
yeah,
not, an online e-com bolt-on, right? Like this is a different tool, right? That you should have or evaluate to enhance the customer experience and also the employee experience, right? Because right now employees are having to pull all that data manually. They're having to consolidate the reports. They're, when they have time. So now there's a way for number one, a distributor to easily give that information, have a dashboard, right? And I equate it to like think about you as a brand having online banking for your distributor partners, where you can literally go in and say, here's my distributor in Detroit. What's their health like, right? And to your point, often you don't know about a discontinued until like, hey, we're going to discontinue your product, right? Wait, whoa, this is the first I've heard. Like, can I get a shot?
right.
Like, what's been working, what's been not working? Well, it's not selling. Well, why? Like, is the picture not there? And this is, true story of looking at the way our shopper is now shopping, right? We base our decisions based, is the image right? Is there a rating? Is the description there? Country of origin? All those things. So, you know, as a if you're on the distributor side, don't think of this as replacing your ERP. This is not a replacement for that. This is a complement to the experience for your vendors to be able to. I think because I have been on the marketing and sales sides of working really closely with vendors, how easy are you to work with, right? Like, do you give me information? Do you give me opportunities, right? I think any brand wants to get more SKUs in there. Well, to get more SKUs, you have to be a good partner. You have to do sample programs. You have to have the right information. You have to go to market with them. And without that data, it makes it more challenging. And on the flip side, too, is now you give a way for your vendors to be proactive in their approach, right? So every day or every week, I could go through and audit, like, okay, I know this product isn't selling. I need to go back. I need to figure out why this customer stopped. Did they change the menu? Did the chef leave? Now I can have really fruitful conversations to, go and investigate on the behalf of the distributor with the distributor. And also as a broker too, when you're going through the process, it's like, when you go and see all your customers that you wanted to see with your distributor, it really stops there. Like, I went on my ride-alongs, I took my notes, and that's it, right? Like, what actually happens from there, you don't know. And there's so many frustrated brand representatives with brokers because, well, you don't know where the product's going. Well, of course I don't. I don't have visibility into where that product is going. I can tell you that either cases went up or they went down into distribution. And after that, I can't really give you a very clear picture. I've called the rep, I've emailed the buyer, I've went by to see the whoever, I can't get in, I can't get the information. And so a tool like this can truly be revolutionary into the overall experience. From when you started this project to today, where have you seen shifts in the process of like, oh, I thought this was going to be important, but not important. This is actually more important.
Yeah, to tie into a lot of what you're saying, we thought that um, the experience from the distributor to the chef was the most important thing. But the problem is that that's built on information. And it should be built on information. And what we've really learned is that none of that information is there. These major ERPs and apps for distributors between them and their chefs. They're doing a great job, but they're really struggling from, let's just say, the two biggest apps out there for uh, white labeling for distribution purchasing are really having a hard time getting the data to fill out a catalog of 1, 10, 100,000 items. And so, to your first point, we are not that. We are what we call a VRM, a vendor resource management for distributors. So we don't want to touch any of the relationships between distributors and chefs. Let's just say we want to make this, we want to make brands better partners for distributors at scale and distributors better partners for brands at scale. You talked about a product getting discontinued. Well, some brands have 50, 75, 100 distributors. They can't be checking on all the inventory of all the distributors all the time. They need that information readily edible, let's just say. And so we want to make better partners for a distributor from their vendors. And we've just seen how, number one, that underlying data for a distributor, a sales rep to be successful is missing almost at every distribution level across the country. That's not on anything that's not on GS1 really, which is almost everything. And so that's where we've really focused is being the information behind the people, behind the apps, behind the products, behind the distributors to make them all successful. And that's what we've really learned is just the communication is so lacking so hard to get that information, to have that product, to have those pictures that you said, whether to know why your product isn't selling. Well, I would say like 60% of the time it's because there's a problem in the database. 30% of the time there's a problem that somebody forgot to communicate something on time. And then 10% of the time it's because there's logistical problems. So we can solve 90% of those inventory issues with just clear continued communication. So yeah, to answer your question, what we've really seen is adoption of technology is accelerating at the highest in this industry than ever before, but the underlying data isn't all connected. And that's where we've really seen to be our focus and to be the need in the market.
Well, and so many of your core customer base, well, there's two. It's the brand side, it's the distributor, right? Both have kind of varying but similar needs. And in these family owned and operated distribution companies, it could just be a singular seafood company. It could be a seafood plus meat. It could be a specialty broadliner. It can just be a produce company. And they could lack maybe a director of procurement that's creating standards for accessing information. And more people are using web or app to place orders. And every day that goes by, it's like more and more people are adapting, right? I remember trying to get chefs to order online. I'm old school, you need to come take my order. You're seeing less and less of that. Like, people are just using technology in their every single day lives, that like that excuse really doesn't work anymore, right? Even the biggest properties are using a web app experience because it's just easier. It's not trying to replace David or Ian. Is really just enhance our use of time. And again, the accessibility of that information is huge. And rather than me emailing, okay, here's all my vendors, right? And I need to get updated photos. I need to get allergens. I need to get, you name it, right? Like, what are keywords that are important for you? Because as a distributor, when you're looking to upload into the system, what are you categorizing? Like, if someone searches sugar, do you want agave and, stevia to populate, right? You have to tag those things accordingly. Do you do it by region? Because I had to tell our purchasing team regularly, you have to put yourself in the customer's position. Go online and go and start to browse, right? And salami? Do you spell it with an I? Do you spell it with an E? Do you type in charcuterie? Do you, because there's order guides and then there's browsing. Chefs that use the order guide, they're finishing their night and they're just pulling up their order guide and they're adding to cart, right? They're not doing menu planning. They're just doing replenishment of what they have. When they start to search is when they're like, we're doing a new spring menu. We've got a wedding. I wonder if they have, right? And if you're not adding the right attributes to be searched for, it's that could be a missed opportunity on selling, right? And on the marketing side too, it is very difficult for any marketing team. Number one, the marketing team is doing marketing, not like knowing about the beef side, the seafood side, what do I need? Here are the key attributions about seafood. What are the certifications? When I market, what are the key things I need to talk about? When you put that in the vendor hand, like, here's the expectation I need you to talk about, there could be like a social media highlight points, right? And it's, here's the attributions that you need to write about, right? That are going to be interesting and intriguing. Here's our logo files. Here's 12 images that work great for social media. Here's 4 videos. Upload, upload, upload. Now you have a source of truth for that acts as your treasure bank. And from a structural standpoint, you know that my task is to market seafood on Mondays, meat on Tuesdays, produce on Wednesdays, and now I can start to pull and curate. And I don't have to make a phone call, right? Because people are traveling and it takes time to get the information. Now I can assemble everything without. I think that's what you're looking to do, is create efficiencies for people. How, from what does it look like to bring this on board? Like, how hard is it? What does that look like?
That's what you're saying. It goes back to the old expression. Um, it, Knowledge is knowing that knowledge is knowing that a tomato is a fruit, but wisdom is knowing not to put it in a fruit salad. And so often these databases are from the wrong perspective. From a distributor's perspective, maybe they have frozen, cold storage, dry goods, and then in that case, like, if a chef is looking for olives, and they have to find it through the canned goods or something like that. And so what we've really seen is, to your question, is that there's so many different perspectives, there's so many different languages that all these people are speaking. Chefs speak chefs, and closing chef speaks I want to order whatever it is that I need for tomorrow so I don't get yelled at. Whereas the CDC is looking months down the line. So those are two different places where, like you're saying, they want to see the tags and the full spectrum of what the distributor has, and they want to do it as quickly and easily as possible. Nobody wants to work, and so we've really focused our onboarding to be turnkey. We don't ask people for things to get it for ourselves. We get data and information so that everybody's product sells. And so a problem with these marketing teams is that they have to get the content and the assets once, for one time push, for 1 week, for one social media post. Well, what we want to do is get all the content in one place so that they can pick and choose, and they can just walk down the proverbial aisles of content from their hundreds of brands to make their lives plug and play. And so we've really made it from the distribution aspect is just going back to our ethos. Everybody sees, and nobody has to ask. There's really no lift for a distributor other than the back end alignment, and the hardest part is the traditional workflow for traditional software systems that have been traditionally behind the times because they've never been pushed to change. So our biggest the thing that only takes the longest is dealing with these distribution software providers. And like you said, calling takes forever. and getting information back and forth. But once we get through those guys, the lift for distributors is almost nothing. And we've seen from the brands such a desire to want their distributors to have this information, such a desire to want this information back so that they know what's going on, so that they know that the distributor knows what they're talking about is accurate. And frankly, the sales reps want to know that what they're telling the chefs is true. So much of the information that they have on their old legacy platforms is outdated. And so our goal is to make this as simple a lift as possible for the distributor to and get all the information they need from all their brands, so that everybody can do their job. And we've made it as turnkey as humanly possible, while their traditional ERP systems make everything as complicated as possible. So that's where we sit and why. And I'm not trying to name names here, but anybody in the distribution software business knows exactly who we're talking about.
Well, yeah, I was talking to a company today, a consulting company, and asking about some of the challenges that are in food technology today. And I said the legacy food service ERPs, like those are going to be extinct, right? I think one of the questions you should be asking if you're on the legacy system is how many developers and engineers do you have? If it's a low number in single digits, like you should probably be nervous. Oh, we have 100 customers. IFTA said that there's 16,000 food service distributors in North America. Some of them are jobbers and some of them are, like larger scale. But the reality is, like, again, call it sub 50 million. Like maybe you're either still working off QuickBooks. At least QuickBooks is going to innovate. Like they're not necessarily going anywhere, right? They're going to make some tools and changes, and they're recruiting talent. The legacy systems are not recruiting Stanford, MIT. Like you walk in any of their buildings, it's old school furniture. There's no cold brew and sparkling water on tap, right? Like, and I think that's a really important thing because your whole business is being leveraged by old school thought. And I wrote a quote: stop being traditional and accept change. And so many people, this is just the way it's been done. It's fine, right? But it's fine until it's not, when that system breaks because people have retired and they're not investing in recruiting people, retaining people, because compared to an Oracle, a QuickBooks that does have the means to pay people, you're still kind of running on that shoestring budget. So that, I think, is a scary thing to think about, is if you are a distributor, what's the cost of your system now? What's the cost of an improvement system? This is ERP specific. This has nothing to do with, the ERP is where your product master lives, where your vendor master lives, where your customer, your ledger, like everything is there. So, I think you should start to line item in your P&L technology improvement, right? If Cisco spends like $150 million a year on their tech stack, if you do that proportionally based off of your own business as a distributor, are you investing in that every year? Or is your subscription, is that what you're calling your innovation and investment, right? Like, and I've never come across a distributor that's just like, man, 2025 is the year that we're going to spend the next 6 months just deep diving into the different ERPs and figuring out what. They don't have time to do that. They're just working on the day to day. They're not actively seeking out these new platforms. And so I think talking about what's out there is super important. And, what you're building is, I think, a dream of what people on the brand side have wanted. Like, I just want information. That's really all I want. And then the marketing team maybe is more uh, agnostic to like the feelings of, you're going to take the information and give it to someone, because it's typically someone that's not as well rounded in product. And your job is to do email, SMS, push notification, website. Like, you're just trying to make the company cooler, and on social, so you're not as like tied to the emotion, where the salesperson or sales leadership or procurement has been very guarded to that information, right? But you had mentioned in Europe, like, data is a right to those people. Maybe talk to that just a little bit.
Yeah, there's a lot there. So to start, um, it just goes back to tradition. These guys are starting to see new uh, capacity um, for change. We talked to a sales rep the other day, and what used to be, I'm old school, I need you to take my call, is now, look, don't call me, don't talk to me, just show up with what I order on the app. Do not come in. I'm busy. I don't want to talk to you. And this is the new chef. This is the new world. And if you look at distributors, you talk about workflows. How much of these old school distributors think that it's sustainable to have people working 120-hour weeks? And you've seen the ups and downs of distribution structures. How many of these, let's just say, 10-20 million dollar distributors, it's just one guy, a couple people on keyboards, and then two or three people just putting out fires, all the fires all day, running product that didn't get delivered, fixing product quality issues, communicating with people that got the wrong information. It's just they pay people to fix their lack of investment in functionality and lack of technology. And we're seeing like these distributions, what were once 3-4 generations or whatever, the fifth generation can't do it the same way. And so to your point, like, what we're doing is trying to make this sustainable, trying to make it function, trying to make the information easy for not only the marketing departments who are making your keeping up with the general sentiment and making your brand look cooler, but also the on the ground teams that have to do the sales, that have to pound the pavement, that have to go and taste product. Because at the end of the day, like, marketing and all that stuff is great, but the chef buys on taste, or needs to know what it tastes like per dollar. So what Cisco's spending on their software, what they're delivering, what these distributors are spending on software is almost nothing, but they deliver the taste. And so what we want to do is give, like, just like you're saying, we want to give more people more time to have the relationships where they're wanted, to not have the relationships where they're not wanted, and to continue to bring the right product to the right people that want it, and to know who that is, frankly, because that's what we're bringing, is the data, who wants what they're getting, bringing it to the brands who needs to know, and allowing the salespeople to do what they're best at, which is sales.
So if a distributor brought you on, what is that experience for the brand once that integration is complete? Like, what do they get? What how are they accessing information, and what's that information
Yeah,
look
so when a
like?
distributor brings on their brands have a quick, easy content uploader. We do all the sorting, we do all the matching, we do all of the data compiling. So the brand, quick, just give us everything you got that you want all your distributors to know. Um, so when distributor A asks a brand to come on, that brand only has to do the work once. Then when distributor B, C, and D come on, that brand, all the content that was uploaded once or uploaded again or refreshed or made relevant again, everybody sees and nobody has to ask. Sorry if I'm being repetitive. It's just applicable. For the distributor, they get social media content, they get product information, they get detailed pictures, they get videos, they get whatever content that best sells that brand's product. Then the brand, on the other hand, what they get is the sales data of where their product is ending up, who's selling it, which people are buying it, what they're buying, how much, and we compile all the data for them. So for distributor, sometimes privacy is really important. So they get to go through and say, I'm scared of this brand, or these brands aren't great to work with. We don't want to tell them that much, but this brand is really great to work with, and we want them out selling their product for our distributor. They can just like they can throttle down or
So it's like parental
controls. We see it as throttling data, or just the nozzle on the fire hose. What distributor gets to choose and control which brands see which data at their preference level, so that brand can act accordingly. And best brands get the best data, and the best partners can be the best partners. So to summarize, the brands get the sales data, the distributors get the content and the assets to sell the most of that brand's product.
What has been something you've learned that you didn't expect out of this building, right? Like, obviously you're in the mix of technology heavily, right? And I'm sure there's a lot you've learned. Is there anything that sticks out to
I'm
you?
always surprised at how much people are spending to not change. You talked about how these distributors, how old school and all this kind of stuff, and they're spending so much money on spending so much money. And so whether it's some major national distribution company sending out paper checks, or major brands having to call and ask for favors for getting the information that they're not only do what I feel is her right, but what exactly they need to do to run their business, market reports on segments and this kind of stuff. And so people distributors spend so much money on doing it the hard way. And it's always surprising me to see the new versions of that. Again, whether it's sending out paper checks, or it's sending screenshots of product information from emails, or taking the long and arduous road not to deliver a better product or a better service, but to deliver a lesser service and a lesser product. And so, we've seen $100 million distributors running on DOS, and they're spending millions of dollars continuing this DOS software because tradition. And how much effort people put and how much money people put into not changing it continues to be astonishing. And like I said, we just want to make it easy to make the economical decision, to make the right decision, to make the high quality decision, to make the better relationship decision, and to make change easy and not scary.
Well, and I think if you're evolving as a distributor, as an individual, at home, in your career, the one constant is change. It is, especially in our world that we live in, where we're adapting to new things, self-driving cars, and there's frustration points, I think, for a lot of people on kids and tech, or the impact of social in our lives in general, right? And it's technology, unfortunately, now doesn't care about your opinion. Like, the reality is, it's moving that way, and you can have your opinion, but I was eating dinner a few months ago in New York, and was with a developer and engineer that had done some work with Wayfair. And I think I've mentioned before to some people, before they went into a meeting, there's like a quote on the wall that said, "Without data, it's an opinion." And too often, especially in distribution, it's old school opinions and not factual data that's driving where they should be looking. And so for any distributor out there looking for transparent, or to create transparency, to increase workflow, to be the best version of yourselves for the future, to be a great partner, to be the partner people want to work with, so you have more people coming to your market to sell on your behalf, because salespeople are expensive. That's the truth. Like, again, if you're $100 million company or below, like, everyone counts, right? And so you're lucky if you get a new hire in sales, right? So do you put someone in operations? Do you put someone in sales? What's the best use of your dollar, to become more effective? You just can't just hire a bunch of people because you don't have the resources, right? Like, you have to be resourceful with what you have, and making the overall experience. And I would say, just like we talked about Oracle or QuickBooks or Quicken, recruiting, you as an individual, as a distributor, should be looking at, how do I recruit and retain? So many times I talk to brands like, oh, the distributors, they just churn salespeople. Why do they churn salespeople? The experience, the employee experience is not great. They're chasing their fucking tail all day long, putting fires out. The work life balance doesn't exist. The work atmosphere is like a funny meme where it's like, you want me to come back to culture, and it's like, a crappy cubicle with like hodgepodge of equipment, right? Like, you've got you got three different screens, because it was like hand-me-downs, right? And I think your responsibility to innovate for your people. Technology costs have come down so that you can actually now have several bolt-ons. Again, look at your phone and evaluate how many apps that you have that you use. Apple is not producing every single thing, because that's not what they do, right? And the bolt-ons are producing these things to make a part of your life better, a part of your life more efficient. And I think you need to take that to heart. Well, any parting words as we wrap up, and where can people find To Market, can find you if they wanted to get in
Yeah,
touch with
so
you?
man, Ian, thanks so much for having me on. I'm really proud to be included amongst the titans of industry that you've had on here, and I feel like I'm standing on the shoulders of giants, just talking to you. And so it's been a pleasure working with you. Continue to love doing so, and excited for the future that it holds. People can get a hold of me at tomarket.com, tomarket.com, and we spell it out. And so while and the final words are, while there is a lot changing in this world, some of the things that don't change are the relationships, and how, like I said, chefs need to taste things. Chef needs to know that distributors have their back, and the relationship between the chef and the sales rep is way more important than who that sales rep is working for. And so while we want to make it easy to give your sales reps the best possible standing to be the best sales rep they can be, we still know that we're building this for people. And so, just like you said, and big ethos for us is to build this product for people that are working. And we know the people, we know the problems, we know the industry. We're not just making data for data's sake. This isn't AI taking people's jobs. These are real people with real problems, and we want to make their real day better. So thanks again for having us on. Shoot me an email at moose@tomarket.com if you're interested, and we're looking to make the industry better as a whole by making people's day better. My job is easier.
And to finish up again, this is not your CRM.
No.
This is not your ERP.
No.
This is not your.
You got
this
those.
This is another platform to help you assemble data.
Yep.
And create opportunities for yourself and the people around you that touch the business, that can get one more box on the truck.
100%.
So, and keep that in mind. If I already have a CRM, I already have a ERP. This is no. This is,
how do you take care of your vendors?
Different. This is something that. Yep, this is your VRM, which I love that analogy. Well, David, thanks for joining us. I'll leave you with the quote that I'm taking is, knowledge is knowing a tomato is fruit. Wisdom is knowing not to put it in a fruit salad. That is something that I will use for a while.
Can't wait. Thanks much, Ian. Take care.